All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome everybody to Mazévo Connect for February. I can't believe March is just around the corner. That means spring is also right around the corner. And if you're like I am, you are very excited that spring is almost here. We're getting a little taste of spring actually here in Colorado today. It's in the 60s, I think, outside. So we are definitely loving it. So anyways, if this is your first Mazévo Connect, welcome. We do these every month. This is on approvals today. We'll be talking about approving events in Mazévo. But before we get to that, the way these things usually roll is that we will be introducing the concept and talking about approvals here today. During that presentation, you're welcome to ask questions. We just ask that you put them in the chat in Zoom, and we will monitor those that way. We should also have plenty of time at the end for open Q&A as well. So if you'd rather save your question for that period and then you can unmute yourself and ask it that way, sometimes that works better, whatever you feel comfortable in doing. So just to introduce our presenters today, it's going to be the Mazévo team, and we've got several here presenting. I've got Claire DeGroat, who's our account executive for us, Joe Finley and Wendy Newland, who are both software trainers, and then Dean Evans, who's our CEO. So depending on what view on Zoom, you probably see them here that way. Before we roll into it, just wanted to make a couple of announcements. Those of you that are in higher education, we are going to a couple of conferences here in March. So if you do the conference circuit as part of your job, we will be at the ACUI conference in New York City, March 17th, I think that is. And then the week after, we're going to be crisscrossing the country and going out to Albuquerque for ACID I. So if you are going to either of those shows, we would love to see you in person. It'll be myself there and also Claire joining me. So please do stop by and see us. We love to get out and see everybody in person, which we don't often get to do. Also wanted to welcome a few new Mazévo customers into the Mazévo community. Some recent signups that we have. It was Western University in Ontario, Canada. The Western USC is coming on board. Welcome. Fayetteville Town Center in Arkansas also just signed up with Mazévo, and they are off to the races. And I think they're going to be getting live here very shortly. Isn't that right, Joe? So amazing effort there. And then finally, University of Wisconsin Lacrosse also just signed up a couple of days ago. So if anybody's on from those institutions, welcome. So, all right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get into it here. Let me see. I think I've got a few people in the waiting room. Did somebody let those folks in there, Dean?
Yep.
Okay. I forgot to turn off the waiting room. Let me do that right now. Okay. Bear with me just a second here. There we go. Okay. On with the show here. So today we are going to be talking about simplifying event approvals. And before we do that, I kind of wanted to set the stage. If you're like most of our customers, you don't just let anybody walk in off the street and decide they want to have a meeting in your facility, right? They need to either be affiliated with your organization somehow, maybe they're a student, maybe they're a member, or they need to be somebody who's willing to pay you and generate some revenue for your facility. So there's a process in place, right, on who can use your facility. Now, if the event is relatively simple, let's say, or you just don't have a lot of events, well, that approval process can be pretty simple. It's really just a matter of, having somebody in charge of just kind of vetting things and making sure that this is a legit event and letting them have their event. But what happens when you either have a lot of events that are always happening, or the events also get more complex, meaning they have things like AV equipment needs, facility setups, they're going to be serving food, maybe security needs to be aware, things like that. Well, if you have a lot of events like that, things can get pretty detailed fast, and it can be difficult to stay on top of everything that you have going on. So in Mazévo, we've designed it so that there are some features in there that allow you to make sure that everybody that needs to be aware of what events are going on is aware of that, and also gives them a way to give you some feedback on can they actually accommodate this event or not. So those are kind of the main issues that Mazévo is attempting to solve there for that. And we are actually going to demonstrate those issues today, or not the issues so much, but just how you can actually use Mazévo to overcome those issues with that. So we're going to be showing you some features, and there's some benefits to using Mazévo for this. Because if you're not using Mazévo for this, what we found is typically what's happening is there's a lot of emails going back and forth, phone calls, things like that, and somebody's trying to stay on top of all of these events that you have going on, and can you actually do them or not. But if you do it in Mazévo, it's, ultimately the idea is to create less work, get those approvals faster so that you're not keeping everybody in limbo and avoiding the bottlenecks, and also making it more transparent, because if there's just one person that's doing that, but multiple people need to know if an event's been approved, that can sometimes be an issue, and then just not dropping the ball and forgetting something there. So you're going to see that today in how we demonstrate this. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to role play the whole process of creating an event from start to finish. And those on the Mazévo team are actually going to be playing some different roles here. So I've put up a little slideshow of how we're going to roll through this today. So it's going to start off, Claire is going to be playing the role of our requester, and she's going to be submitting a request for an event that she wants to hold. That then is going to go to Dean, who is the event planner for our fictional organization here. And he's actually going to review this request. It's going to come into him first. He's going to look at it, see if he has any issues with the event. And if he doesn't, then he's going to email our two approvers, who are played by Wendy and Joe. Joe will be doing the AV approval, and then Wendy is going to be doing the security and campus safety approval for that. So you'll actually get to see what this looks like from their points of view as we go through the process. And that's an easy way to kind of get your head around how it works. Finally, it'll go back to Dean, who will then, once he hears back from AV and campus safety, he will then approve the overall event, and it will go back to Claire at that point. So we'll kind of walk through and step by step go through that process here. And then when we're through with that, we'll address any questions and talk about some of the other cases that you might run into during the approval process with that. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and stop talking, and we're going to let Claire go ahead and put her request in. Last thing I will say, again, if any questions come up as we're going through this, you can put them in the chat here in Zoom, and we will address them that way, or you can save them till the end. So anyways, with that said, I am going to stop sharing at this point, and we will let Claire take over.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So I've already logged into the system, and I'm going to go right here and add my new request. So I'm going to say this is a chess tournament. And then it's a meeting. My organization is going to be the chess club, and I want it for 80 people. Big meeting here. So I'll leave my dates there. I'm going to pick a day in March. I will go with the 12th. I continue on. Now here are my rooms that are available for this big tournament. Let's look at some spaces here. I'm going to look at the lounge because that's probably pretty big. I can check that out. Yeah, I like that lounge. Nice and open. I'm going to pick that one. I continue on. And now I'm going to pick my service providers. I'll just pick some audio visual. Okay, here's my audio visual that I need. I want a microphone since this is a big meeting, and maybe I want a screen. I continue on. Here are my questions that I need to answer. Do I need additional assistance? I do. And then I'm going to just say none needed. Once I submit, here's my meeting right here. It is pending, so I'm going to wait for that to be approved. So I'll stop sharing and let Dean take over.
Thanks, Claire. All right, I'm going to jump in here. And I'm an administrator, so I've jumped right in here. Um, and everybody knows that you're going to use data glance in the request process. But if you've never seen secondary approvals, all of a sudden you're seeing all sorts of stuff here in my request screen. So we've got these special buckets. Now I'm going to talk about these a little bit later and describe what goes into each one of those. But every event that is still in request status is displayed here, but it's broken up by its approval status. So down here at the bottom are the ones that need attention, secondary approval activation. And here's Claire's chess tournament. So I'm going to click on that and open that up. Now, if you were running a simple process and you didn't need any of this additional approval, you'd probably just go ahead and hit approve or deny here, and that's going to change the status. Um, I'm going to say this several times throughout my presentations. Status is very important. It's got to be in a request status for this approval process to work. If I change that to confirmed, it short circuits all of the approvals because the event planner is really the quarterback and is going to control this whole process. So what I want to do is jump over here to approvals, and we have two approvals that were Claire never saw this, but these two approvals were automatically added. She selected AV. We created an approval that the AV team needs to look at this, and we have campus safety. The safety department needs to look at it because we have over 75 attendees. So when I what happens is the event comes in and it's in this kind of, I get to take a look at it and go, no, 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 we're not going to do this at all. I'm not going to bother AV or campus safety. If that was the case, I'd hit deny. If it looks okay to me, I go through all my tabs and everything and it looks fine. What I would do is I would activate the approvals. And when I click that button, it's going to email the AV approvers and it's going to email campus safety approvers saying you have something to approve. And now it's in this approval pending state, approval state of pending. And so we just kind of wait here. So I'm going to close that and come back. And so Claire's uh, event was originally here in activations. If I refresh my screen, we're going to see that she's now moved up to another bucket and she's in here waiting for approvals. Now, we saw that there were two approvals on the chess tournament. The other piece we're going to look at a lot today is this other screen in Data Glance called approvals. And we look in here, it's broken up by the type of approval and each one of those. So if we look for the chess tournament, you'll see it's under AV approval, and there's also a campus safety approval. And they're both sitting here waiting, they're pending. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and Joe's going to jump in, and he's going to act as the AV team, and he's going to look at that event. So, Joe.
All right. Get to the right one. Okay. Everybody's got my screen.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So the first thing that I want to mention is that my security, I'm what's called Joe Planner, and I am an approver, and I only have the access to approvals. So my menu up here is very, very limited. And because that's the only one I have, when I log in, my home page, it just simply goes right to that. And it does jump into this particular list of things that I have. Now, before Dean clicked activate, my list was just these first two from other events. I clicked refresh, and I actually now see, because he forwarded it out to me, I can actually see it here as the new one that came in. So this chess tournament needs my approval. Now, I'm only the approver for the AV. So that's all that I'm going to be approving. I'm going to review. So I clicked on it. I opened it. So therefore it opened up. It says it needs approval, gives me my deny and approve buttons, gives me some detail about this event, the booking information, the resources that they've selected. So they've selected a microphone and a projector, and I'll be able to handle that. But then I can also see, oh, there's two questions over here that were asked. So I want to always make sure that I review that information. So the first one is, will you require assistance setting up the AV equipment? And so it says yes in the is the answer, and then any additional room stuff, and it says no. So with that, I'm going to approve that event. I had a note over here that I was going to type in, so I'm going to kind of copy that. And so that I can get that. I was just trying to make it a little easier, faster to get over. So I've reviewed all the information about it. I see its setup time. I see its teardown time, the time of the event, number of people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say, yep, I do approve this one. Now, these approval buttons are only approving my secondary approval. It has nothing to do with any others that Dean had talked about that might be going out, or that the overall event is approved. This is just that secondary. So I'm really doing this to notify back to Dean that I, as the IT manager or AV manager, do say that they can have this event. So approve this event. I'm going to say yes. I do have some notes to post into there. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to close that window. Now it drops out of my bucket. I no longer see it. I'm done, and I go forward with whatever the rest of my day is. Maybe it's looking at these other two events that need to be approved. And I think we now have, I'll stop sharing and we'll pass it over to our next approver. And that's going to be Wendy.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. I have different permissions than Joe. I'm sort of an event planner with access to reports, but I also am an approver because I'm in charge of the campus safety team. I received an email from the event planner that I need to approve the event because it's over 75. And I see it. I see chess tournament there, approval needed, but I see, oh, CPR training came in. I'm just going to look at this one first and look at the resources needed. There were no event questions answered, but I don't have staffing on the 3rd of March, so I'm actually going to deny this one. And then I'll put a little note to the event planning team. All right, and then I'm going to look at this chess tournament. And just like what Joe did, I'm going to take a look at the resources required, nothing to do with me. The event questions, nothing pertains to me, but I do see 80 people. That's why I got this approval. So everything's good. There's no other large meetings going on that day. I have plenty of staffing, so I will approve it. Coast is clear. I'm going to stop sharing. Turn it back to Dean.
I'm going to jump back in and show you where we're at as far as what's gone on now. So if I go back into my day at a glance here and pull that up, and then we'll just look down here. All secondary approvals have been approved, and there's our chess tournament right there. So if I click on that, it'll open that event. Let me just show you. If I go to approvals here, you're now going to see under AV approval, you're going to see the chess tournament's been approved, and we go down to this big bucket of safety. It's been approved. So from here, I'll just open the event because that's really what I want to get to, and we'll take a look at it. So just to review everything, I'm still in a request status. I'm the event planner. I haven't really done anything except to release those approvals. And now when I come to the approval tab, it's saying approved. So at this point, I've got everybody's buy-in. I like the event still. Nothing's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and hit the overall event approval. Now, what that's going to do is ask me what status I want to put that into. I'll say confirmed. And when I do this, all of the approval process has really kind of been short-circuited and it's ready to go to Claire. So typically what we would do is send an email to Claire with a confirmation and say, hey, your event's been approved. So here it is. And I would hit send. Good to go. I know you probably put something else there, but I'll just hit send. So Claire's events have been approved. You could have had, when I hit that big approve button, the system could have sent out an automatic approval email to Claire that just says your event's been approved. Most people have that turned off because they want to control it through the confirmation. So I want to stop here. I'm going to come right back in a moment here, but we want to take you all the way to Claire and show you what she sees now on her end. So
Okay, so I'm back on my screen here. So if I look at my events, I now see that the chess tournament has been booked. So everything is all set to go. All right, I will stop sharing.
now I'm going to jump back in. And so here I am on Claire's event. So what I want to do is go back to day at a glance and kind of talk about some of the other buckets and things like that and what do these things really mean. So let me jump back over here to the request screen. This is where we originally started. Now, if we look down that list, the chess tournament's no longer there because I hit the button that said give it the overall event approval, changed its status to confirmed, and so now it's gone. Okay, it's out of here. So let's talk about these buckets real quick. The one we started with was this waiting for secondary approval. So that's where all of your events would come into that have an approval that needs to be triggered. If we look up here on this one, there's another bucket. Well, this ABC event was put in, but it didn't trigger any approvals. There might not be any AV on that. It's a very simple event. We don't need to check with any other departments to get their approval. So that's one that I could just open and hit the big approve button at the top of the screen. So those are the two buckets that they'll go into. And then when I release those approvals, it goes into this next bucket here called secondary approvals or pending. So that's where it sits as it waits for the approvers to perform their action. And then as we saw, both of those were approved. If all of the approvals are approved, it ends up in this bucket up here. If one of them is still pending, one or more are still pending, or one is denied, it'll be in a different bucket. If there's still a pending one, it'll be down here. But denied is very special. If somebody denies their approval, it really just stops everything, okay? And so I've got this one here, structural issues with tall buildings. I've got that open on another screen here. So what's happened is the catering folks have come in and said they've denied it. And so what I want to do is I'm going to bounce back and forth here. When I come back over here and I look at approvals, because there were 4 approvals on that event, you'll notice that event's nowhere in here. Well, I say that, it's right here. It's still pending here with this one. I wasn't expecting it there. But it's showing me that it's denied on that one there. So you can see here the status color, the red ones are denied and things like that. So it's kind of giving you this dashboard right here is letting you take a look at all of that. Now, if I come over here and I'm looking at this and I go, you know what, catering's denied. I might call a customer and say, hey, you can't have catering. Do you still want to have your event? And if they say, yeah, I don't want the donuts or the coffee or whatever, you would come in here and you're going to remove the catering and delete that. And then what you're going to do to fix the approvals is you're going to come back in here and you're going to say, I want to take this one catering approval that was denied, and I basically want to disregard it because I've already taken care of it. They're not going to do catering, so we don't need the catering approval. And so when I do that, that's going to reactivate those other approvals. So when I come back over here to the request, you'll now see structural issues is now still waiting for approval down here. It was up here under denied, and the whole thing's come down here now. So if you have approvals that are denied, it pretty much short circuits all of the other approvals because you don't need their attention because if it's just the one's denied, so the whole event stops. Now that's what the disregard does. It kind of takes care of that. That's one thing I wanted to kind of go over there. One other thing, I want to go back to Claire's chess tournament here. And again, I told you I was going to tell you this, but if you are not in the request status, your approvals are basically shut off. So they're not going to be active. They're only really active in the request status. So if you cancel this event or you confirm it, that basically says we're not going to look at any more secondary approvals on that event. So just to kind of keep that in mind there. Let's see. The other things I wanted to kind of look at here on this tab. Now this one's, let me go back to my structural issues event here. You've got a couple of buttons now because we've already approved and sent these out. You could say disregard all of these if you wanted to, and it would just throw them all away. I don't know why you'd do that. You'd probably just deny the whole event. I don't know that you'd continue through the process if you're not going to use any of their services. So just kind of keep that in mind that that's what you can do. If it was still in a pending status, you can manually add approvals. There's a manual button here to add an approval. So you can create additional approvals as you go through here. So, all right, so let's go see how we configure this. So under settings, I've already opened up secondary approvals here. And here's the ones we've seen. So the ones we actually played with on Claire's was this AB approval. So I'll open that up. Here's the approver, so you can have more than one approver. If you have more than one approver, whoever goes in and approves or denies it, they win, and all of the other people, it just gets taken off of their plate. Okay, so here's an example of that AV approval. And if we look at that campus safety approval, the difference here is the trigger, and this one's actually over 75. So let me talk about those triggers. Here are all the triggers. You can manually create one, and that's how you get it on that other screen. You can always have an approval. You can base it on location, services, type of event, attendance, organization type. You can also do it based on the answer to an event question. So if they said, if you ask the question, are you going to have alcohol at your event? Yes or no. If they answered yes, then you probably want to have all the bells and whistles go off and have somebody approve that alcohol event. So that's what that was for. So your approvers are right here. Now, these are all of the users in Mazévo that have the approval role. So that's going to be your global administrators and everybody else that's been granted the approval or oversight role. So let me go to users here and we'll take a look. Let's pull up Chris here. And the approval role is right here. It's this oversight approver. So if I check that, then Chris would be available for me to select and assign approvals to him. So, but that's really, this is important. You need to know who's going to approve it. Um, and of course, all of your global administrators, they're in there by default because they have the approval role. That doesn't mean you have to pick them, right? These are the only people that can approve AV. It's not every global administrator. So, but that's kind of the configuration of it. I think that's all I had to cover. So Brian, if we want to open it up for questions and
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know. We've had several questions that have rolled in, and I got to some of them. Um, let's see. I see Therese had a question. Do the security policies need to be changed to allow people to be the approvers? I think you just addressed that, didn't you, Dean?
yeah, no, uh, an approver, they can be a requester, but it's a special role that you grant to somebody so that they get this menu option right here. So it really doesn't have anything to do with security policies. It's a security role. So
And then she had a follow-up question like when you actually deny an event, but say there were still approvals pending on that event, how do the people who were supposed to approve it know that they don't even need to bother with it anymore? What
it
happens?
just it just disappears automatically for them. If you deny the overall event, if an approver had an approval and that event was denied, the approval, it just would not show the next time they go into approvals. Or if they hit refresh, it would magically disappear. So it's all automatic. So
All right. Then we had another question come in from Julianne. This one's more related to the event questions. She's just wanting to know, can you change the order as that they show on the screen?
uh, I don't believe you can. Um, well, let me correct myself. You just
Yeah.
hit this
The
sort
no,
order,
Yeah,
I
you
think it was the
can.
answer.
Oh, you got
and
it.
then you
There
can
it
change
is.
the order, and that's the order that they would appear on the screen.
See?
So if you wanted to have, well, you have an off-campus event. So
Yeah, see, we get stumped on these too
yeah.
sometimes. Um, okay, and Anne's asking, can the event planner add in additional approvals if they need to?
Yes. So let's see here. Let's go to the structural issues because this one's still in a request status. Um,
We don't have any manual ones in
oh,
there.
you don't have any manual ones. Okay, well, let's quickly create one. Call it a manual. And let's say I'll just make myself the approver, the triggers manual. Now, when I save that, now if I come back to my event, let me refresh. And now I get this add approval button here. So that's only going to appear if you have manually triggered approvals. When you click on that, you can have as many as you want, but that's just the name I gave it. I was in a hurry there. So, and it would automatically put that in there. So, but that's how you can manually add things. So,
Okay. Here's another question. We didn't really touch on this one today. So if somebody wants to talk about it, if a user is assigned to a specific location, will they only see the approvals needed for that location?
um, you probably want to craft your approvals in such a way. Um, It's a good question. I'll follow up and find out for you. If I come in here and say this is a location-based approval, location approval, um, and I say locations, you think you're going to, I would think logically you're going to limit this to one or more buildings, and that would be the building um, that that you want the approval in. If you checked all of these, but the you really need to make this list of locations match up with what the approvers should be approving. You wouldn't want to put all buildings here and then put, Brian, who can only approve one of the buildings. So you would need location approval for building one, location approval for building two and three. So you'd need to configure it and restrict it based on this building here. So,
Okay. Um, Had another question here. Melanie's wanting you to address the process for re-requesting an approval once you've adjusted a denied event. So say somebody denied one of the approvals, what happens?
um, okay, let's see if we can get, let me go out here and see if I've got one here. That's kind of that disregarded thing that I did. So I have a meeting here that says the secondary approval is denied. So let's go open that up. And I believe it only has one approval on it. And the AV team denied it. So at this point, the overall approval has not been granted, right? So it's still in a request status right here. So there's probably two things we could talk about is, well, do you want to override the AV approval? And, I think your AV team would say, well, yeah, you can continue to have this, delete the extension cords off of there. And so at that point, if you deleted extension cords, that was where I went in and said disregard the AV approval. And then if there were other approvals on this event, those would show, those would reappear for those approvers automatically. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking if the denial comment or notes said, this day doesn't work, but you can try another day. And so we change the date, resubmit for approval.
You could come back up here as the event is the planner and say, put it back into a pending status, and it would be back on the plate for AV. So you might want to say, oh, well, I'm going to change it to pending. Hey, we changed the date per your request. And then it would be back on AV's plate to approve again. So you could do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
See any other questions at the moment? I was going to bring up another question we sometimes get from folks is when does that email go out? If anybody missed that, so when Dean hits the activate all button there for the approvals, email goes out right away. So
Yeah.
that happens essentially
Yeah, right.
real time.
I'll open one of these events that we haven't done anything to. So when I hit activate all, it's going to send two emails, AV and one to catering immediately. Now, every night from that point forward, it's going to send a little nag email to the AV team and the catering team until they get in and approve or deny this specific approval. So it's going to nag them quite a bit. Now they can short circuit the nag up under profile and preferences. They could come in here and say, uncheck that and opt out of the daily approvals. I wouldn't, I would encourage them to leave that on and just do their job and approve things, but they could certainly opt out of it. Because if they go in here on a regular basis and look at their approvals, those are going to be up to date as soon as you hit that button. So, okay.
All right. Got another question here. Susan's asking if a room that is on an approval process and the approver of that room denies the space, does the requester get notified of that denial, or does the event planner, she said administrator, but the event planner overseeing the day at a glance have to notify the requester?
It's going to be the event planner overseeing day at a glance that's going to have to notify the requester. This whole secondary approval process is, think of it as the back of house. The requester is unaware of what's going on and who's approved and who's denied their particular portion. So it's really back up to the event planner to continue to communicate to the requester, here's where things are at. And that's why we had Claire show you the status for her was pending, and it never changed through that whole process until I said approve the overall event. And that's when it went to booked. So yeah, the approver never sees the sausage making of who approves and denies. So
Another question here. This sounds more like a support question, but I'll bring it up anyways. Gloria's asking if there's another security setting besides the role of secondary approval, which allows people to get that email that, hey, you need to approve an event. She's got a case where a requester's getting those emails.
yeah, Gloria, if you could email support with the person that's getting that, their email address and name, I'll go check that for you. But no, that's where I think it's a different kind of email, although it may say approval. So that's why I need to jump in there and take a look at that. But if you send me that information, I'll get back to you this afternoon on that. But yeah, there's no other way to get an approval email except be an approver, have that approval role. So. Okay.
Seeing any other questions roll in. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. We're rolling up to the last bit here. Oh, here comes one.
I have a quick follow-up, Dean, on the space. So say the person who got their first space denied, their first room denied, and the event planner notifies them, and then they decide to, pick a new space that is also on a approve a space, like we have to put that first request in disregard, and does that next room, does the approver get notified? We're finding it's hanging up. When the first space gets denied, then we have to put it in disregard. Then they may choose another space that's also on an approval process. We find that a second one they're requesting, there's not an email, it's not going an email out to that approver.
I'll have to take a look at that. But it's the same approver for both spaces?
No, it could be different because we have like our theater spaces or our athletic spaces. Oh, different people approve those. So they could have requested something with one, and the next space could be a different approver.
Is it still in a request status, or did you deny the overall event?
No, it's in a request status.
Yeah, if you have an event ID that's happened on, you could email me and I'll be happy to jump in there and look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Right. There was another question that came in here from Carrie. Is there a trigger? I think she's asking if there's a email that will automatically go out to notify the requester when all the approvals are done.
There is. It's based upon that. Let me go back into the debate club. It's not based on the approvals. It's based on you clicking this button right here, which approves the overall event. There can be an email that automatically goes out with that, but it's going to go out for everything and it's not necessarily triggered to the approval process. So if you had an event with no secondary approvals and you hit approve, it would send them an email saying your event's been approved. Or you can also say it's been denied. So the automatic emails could go out or triggered on these button presses right here. Now we have to turn that on for you. It's a tenant setting we can have. It just takes a second to turn on. So let me know if you'd like that.
I think she does want that.
Okay.
Sounds like, yeah.
Good. Good. We'll get that turned on for you, Carrie.
Right. Perfect. Well, I don't think I'm seeing any other questions. I hope this was helpful for everybody to kind of see the whole process. As you can see, there are a number of steps, in this workflow here, but hopefully that makes sense to everybody in kind of how we went through that. If you do have additional questions that come up after this call, please do email us. Email us at support or sales. We'll be happy to help you out. We can also help you set this up as well. So if you don't have this already configured in your system, but you're ready to take the plunge and turn this on, let us know. We would be more than happy to assist you getting it all configured and ready to go and everything like that. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. These were some great questions. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Mazévo Connect here in March. It's going to be on integrations. So stay tuned for details on that one. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.